let me just quickly also refer to the comments made already. I mean, I think measurement is a real issue, but a question there as well is measurement more of a challenge in India than other countries? I mean, does India suffer from a greater measurement problem than other countries? I don't have the answer on that, and maybe just some food for thought. Is India different? I mean, I think Dr. Rama's presentation in the morning helps us understand that. He presented a diagram with that U shape that had on the y-axis the female labor force participation rate, and on the x-axis GDP per capita. And it shows that, of course, female labor force participation is highest in the low-income countries. It falls and it goes up. And this U-shaped hypothesis has been around for many decades, going back to Bergerup and Golden, and it's linked to this idea of the very fundamental process of development. Poor countries, as Martin mentioned, people have to work, country develops, manufacturing emerges, people exit rural areas, men join manufacturing, women are withdrawn from labor force, and as the economy develops, service sector emerges, and women have joined. That's that classical view of the U-shaped hypothesis. And if you saw that in that picture, India is different. Yes, it's an outline in the sense it's well below that fitted line, meaning its female labor force participation is lower than the average at that income level. Who does it sit with? It sits down there with most of the South Asian countries except for Nepal. Though Nepal has a slightly different way of measuring. I mean, they've got, in measurement of their labor force participation, they have a broader concept of labor force. But anyway, you see it sitting there with Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, etc. So India has a low, and along with Middle East and North Africa. So that's the South Asia, Middle East and North Africa is sitting down there as those outliers. So is India different? Well, it's different than the average, of course, for its income level, but it sits there with the South Asia, Middle East, North Africa. And I think that is the biggest issue, and we can argue whether it's falling or not and how it's falling, but it's low. And I mean, I think the issue as well is it's low because fewer women are working outside the home in jobs, in offices, factories, particularly formal jobs. And of course, the measurement issues around the unpaid work, the farming, etc., but outside the home. Now, this falling story is also not unique. I mean, we saw this in Turkey in the 90s and 2000s, Turkey also going from a low level. But I think, accepting that labor force has fallen in India, particularly in the rural areas as we've seen, India is, with Turkey, one of the few countries which is falling from a low level. That is a concern. It's not that countries with high levels of female labor force participation have fallen. It's a country with a very low level of female labor force participation is actually experiencing this decline. I mean, but I would just, my personal view, and also the number of studies have looked at this U-shaped. I mean, it's far from a robust empirical relationship, particularly when you look over time, any sort of panel sort of estimation. So I think it's important to recognize that, and even the own work that I've done with other colleagues, including Shukti Dasgupta, looking in the Asian context. I mean, you've got Bangladesh. Bangladesh went from a low level and increased. And a lot of that was driven by garments, but not only garments, but also agriculture. You have Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has had very stagnant female labor force participation rate, despite very good improvements in human development. And there, the work that we did there as well showed that it was also linked to the lack of job opportunities for women, particularly outside the major cities, etc., which acted as a constraint for them to join. So I think the growth story is extremely important, the demand side, and the whole process of structural transformation, and whether that translates to jobs. And we clearly see in this part of the world major challenges and constraints, limits to growth in terms of where those jobs are being created and how women are being able to access them.